That's why we are members of parliament. For instance, Tamale South. My constituents should be happy seeing me talk about a water shortage in the constituency, a chieftaincy conflict in the constituency, extension of electricity to a rural community in a constituency or to Sanargu, because that becomes a representation role. Or if there are floods, they expect me to speak if people are affected by the flood. And I can say so for the member for Swami, the member for Nkoranza, the member for Wa East or Wa West. We exercise a representation role. But colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the media, there is a role conflict. MPs have projected themselves as if we were district assemblies and we are sponsoring and promoting projects. That has created some conflicts in the constituencies, because in our bid to win our seat, we make those over-ambitious promises and pledges. Some of it may not be wrong. It may be within the framework of our party's manifesto and our flag bearers' vision for the governance of the country, but it is allowing for some conflict. And you have a role as media to help in the understanding of the role of a member of parliament. I should say that we suffer from a crisis of identity. Are we lawmakers or are we development agents? That conflict needs to be explained, and that conflict needs to be understood and managed. Some are of the view that then don't give MPs money for purposes of common fund so that they would not come into the role. But many of you will appreciate that what MPs do with their common fund become very visible and sometimes even more popular and acceptable than what district assembly does in their constituencies. Because of the fear that you can be rejected, we try to be very impressive with those resources. Parliament also exercises an investigative role and an investigative function. That is what you call a parliamentary inquiry. What you need to do is, it's only members of parliament who are clothed with privileges and immunities. What I can say on the floor of parliament and get away with, I may not be able to do so on radio or on television. So there is some additional privilege or right granted me on the floor of parliament and within the presence of parliament. Now, the role of the media. You are aware that the board have taken a decision, myself and my colleague, the Honorable Chairman, spoke to it, to build your capacities. And it's expected that under Speaker Bagbin, many of you will accompany, as was a decision under Professor Michael Quay, you will accompany the Speaker and leadership on important international delegations to the IPU, to the CPA, and other international seminars and conferences in order to build your capacities and to report on the performance of it. Happily, you join us in IPU in Qatar. I remember that very well. One of your respected members implementing it, Professor Michael Quinn implementing it, got one of your own to come in. We are strengthening the Public Affairs Secretariat. She would attest that some recruitment have been done to beef up her staff. Additional staff will be recruited, and I'm sure many of you that demonstrate merit, demonstrate competence, may probably catch the attention of the Parliamentary Service Board to play and contribute in other roles. As you listened to the Speaker and the Majority Leader and Minority Leader yesterday, lessons to learn. The events of 6th and 7th January, we are all united in condemning the shameful events that characterize the election of Alban Sumani Bagbin as Speaker. We are all united that never ever should the military be in the presence and floor of Parliament for any reason. What happened could as well be described as a coup d'etat or a parliamentary coup d'etat. That is why we have the Marshal's office, and at any time that we need to protect life and property, it should be the office of the marshal and not an external police or armed forces. We will investigate that in order to put a terminal end to those happenings that embarrass all of us. But at least Speaker Bagbin emerged, the first since independence for a Speaker of Parliament to come from an opposite party and not the ruling government. His promises impartiality, his promises fairness, we pray he lives to that word. I trust he will. But more importantly, he would need to cooperate with the executive. Like it or not, our constitution is premised on an executive government led by President Nana Akufo-Addo. And therefore, cooperation and compromise will be important going forward. One of the major decisions or events of this parliament, the first meeting of the 8th parliament, one, has been the election of a speaker, the swearing in of members of parliament, the election of 2 deputy speakers. You want the accompanying name, I'll share with you, and the speaker presiding over the swearing in of the president-elect and the vice president-elect. Accept it or not, that has only deepened Ghana's democratic ethos, that has fundamentally contributed to an understanding that there is political leadership for our country at all levels. With the President heading the executive arm of government, Speaker Alban Bagbin heading the legislative arm of government within the meaning of Article 57, 58, and 93 respectively of the 1993 Constitution. Members took an oath as is required of them. The Committee of Selections met and have accordingly distributed committees for members of Parliament in the standing committees and in the select committees. That is a requirement of the Constitution, that a member of Parliament shall belong to at least one standing committee and one or more select committees. That was also done. Our collective regrets, both the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and myself, is our inability to have passed the revised, reformed standing orders. Many of you are still doubting, yes, we have a parliament which is a hung parliament, an inevitable outcome of the 2020 presidential and parliamentary election with MPP 137, NDC 137. The independent has not crossed over. He is only cooperating within the meaning of Article 197 of the Constitution. I hope I get it right. 97, not 197, 97. Within the meaning of Article 97 of the Constitution. So what have we done? We've passed appropriation, we've scrutinized government budget. This is a parliament press conference. I don't want to reduce it to a minority conference. So I will give you a summary of the things that we have done. The Speaker is engaging in some diplomacy, receiving some foreign delegations, heads of embassies and institutions on behalf of their countries coming to congratulate him and to urge support for the legislature. We will support the Speaker to embark on the necessary reforms that strengthen Parliament as an institution to deliver on its mandate. As I said, participatory democracy, we probably will need to go round. The highlight of Parliament's budget this year is a pledge for the commencement of work on MP constituency offices to serve them in the respective constituency in order to open and expand access, so that is a fair way to improve citizens' engagement at the level of the constituency. So that if you have to relate to a member of Parliament, you know what to go. I just shared this interesting example with you. I went to the U.S. Congress, and a congresswoman was so excited. They said, Haruna, I get 1,000 letters. Then I whispered to myself, I get 1,000 visitors, not letters of human beings. She is happy that she's able to get 1,000 letters. Mine is not letters, it's physical human beings. in a day and in a week, as I'm in my constituency, minimum people I see in Tamale South daily is 100 to 300 persons daily. So somebody was excited that they've written letters to me. I said, no, they walk to me, support me for that funeral, support me with that school fees, support me with that outdooring. But there are those who genuinely reflect the concerns of the constituency. Fix that road for us. Fix that school for us. Get that health center done for us. There is oxygen shortage in the hospital. Our women need support. So that is the life of a member of parliament in Ghana. And I'm sure I have endeavored to share with you some of the happenings of the first meeting of the 8th parliament. Major bills were introduced. You saw the financial bills to raise revenue. We as opposition demanded accountability on a number of them. And on a number of them, we expressed strong reservation about supporting them. But whatever it is, government will run and must run efficiently and effectively for the good of the Ghanaian people. We are united in working to improve the quality of life of the Ghanaian. I'm not particularly happy the role Parliament has played in fighting and combating corruption, the role that our investigative institutions have played, whether it's IOCO or the police or Shraj, in holding public officials accountable. But we'll continue to work together. I'll be happy to take a number of questions, and then I will call it quits. So, Kate, I'll hand over to you. I'm sure I've attempted a summary of what we've been doing in the first meeting of the 8th Parliament.
Thank you very much, Leader. I think you've done a fair job of it. We will start with the questions. Please, one question per person so that everybody can get to ask. So we'll take him, instead of 3, let's take him in bunches of 5 so that we can get...
Take only the first 5 and excuse the meeting. I have to fly to Tamale South.
Oh, okay. So
I'm a rural MP, so my pride is from the constituency.
Akoli, I can see you at the back.
Yes. So thank you.
Kunedu.
Kate, so I'm ready.
Yeah, Kunedu.
You call your name and go straight, yeah.
Honourable Leader, we woke up this morning to the news of the resignation of one of your ranking members from the Appointments Committee. That's Honourable Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa. A former colleague of yours in Parliament, Rasmus Boak, has described the resignation as what do you call it? A vote of no confidence in your leadership. I want to find out from you, of course, this comes on the back of the Honourable Adongo also yesterday breaking ranks with the minority and saying publicly that he did not agree with the decision to approve Ken Ofori-Atta as finance minister. Is the minority in turmoil?
Not at all. I'm fully in charge. I'm minority leader this morning. I've just engaged with the party leadership and council of elders. No further comment on someone resigning or not. Thank you.
My question is about the Emmanuel Akoli Peace FM. Emmanuel Akoli Peace FM. My question is about the constituency offices that are going to be constructed for members of parliament. The report of the committee on this says that within the first phase of the project, 70 offices are going to be constructed. My question is about whether officers, or definitely there will be officers working in those offices, constituency offices. I want to know whether it is Parliament who will be bearing the cost of officers who will be working in those constituency offices.
Thank you very much. The offices will be constructed in all the 275 constituencies. The first 70 is just the first phase of it. The others will be rolled out. Those offices will be furnished by Parliament, and where necessary, a skeletal secretariat will be supported to assist the MP play their roles dutifully. Thank you.
Samuel Saint, you see, Ghana Justice.
I'll have the floor. Relax. Yeah, my name is Prince Akwa. I report for Pink FM. Leader, mine has to do with the chamber. I remember the issue of the chamber came up, and there was so many banners, drop the chamber and what have you. Now we have the tent, and I'm told that we are paying 1,000. I stand to be corrected, 1,500 a day. So if it is true, why don't you mobilize that money and build a new chamber instead of putting out this rented tent over there?
I don't have the full details of the rental or contractual relationship on that subject. I should believe that management dealt with the matter. I've taken your concern on board, and I'm sure the board will discuss further the future of Parliament and modernizing Parliament at the level of the board. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Samuel Saint, Ghana Justice. Access to information is very critical. And we saw such manifestation in the case of Kwesi Nyametias versus Electoral Commission and others, 2016, justified by Article 21, Clause 1F. Access to information becomes a right. If you look at the committees in Parliament, sometimes we don't have access to information, and whatever goes on at some of the committees level. What is the next of action in terms of the passage of the new
probably we should work with the Speaker's office and your public affairs directorate where necessary for you to have people sit in during the budget hearing in order to appreciate some of those expenditures and revenues. I would not have an objection into accepting that. But as the budget process goes on, Ghana has passed the Right to Information Act. You can exercise your right within the meaning of the Right to Information law. They probably may have taken off in a manner that is not satisfactory, but at least we now have the legal framework that should allow for free access to information. Now, when you say you don't have access to information, I have a difficulty. Every report of Parliament, you are supposed to have copies, and that's the outcome of a deliberation of a committee on whatever transpired at the level of that committee. I appreciate that. Thank you for the question. Next two.
Hello, Leader, Honorable Leader. Yeah, you are calling for a budget act, and you bemoan the lack of adequate time to scrutinize the budget. But I know the Speaker has proposed a budget and fiscal office. So if you can clarify where that's one.
I'm very supportive of it. When a decision is taken on it, that will be communicated to you. That's what I call, we should even have a budget act and an office of scrutiny to support how we add value for money.
Thank you very much. My name is John Amensa. Leader, you just disclosed that you are fully in charge of the minority in Parliament. And I wish to know if your party is also fully in charge of members of your party. Because your members are not too happy.
That's why I walked into this meeting late. I was having a meeting with the national chairman, the general secretary, and some respected members of the Council of Elders of the NDC. The party is focused to work towards recapturing power in 2024. And the parliamentary organ, led by me currently, will do what is needful to work in tandem with the party to hold the Nana Akufo-Addo government accountable and to lead the party to victory into 2024. Whatever storm it is, we'll weather it. Thank you.
Leader, looking at the current numerical strength of the Parliament, when it comes to oversight, are we going to have the cooperation of both the majority and minority play that role?
I can only look forward to cooperation and collaboration, but let not anybody exaggerate that I have more than what I have, which is known arithmetically and numerically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, should we expect a reshuffle at the front of the minority?
The party at any time will discuss that with the caucus in Parliament to make a determination of that matter. Don't forget that I'm in Parliament in my own right as elected member of Parliament for Tamale South. Thank you.
My name is Humu, GBC. Leader, at the beginning of the meeting, the minority side demanded an equal share of leadership in terms of the committees. You didn't get it. Is it that you've given up?
we're hoping that the new standing orders will have responded much more adequately to it. The current standing orders didn't permit that, but you know that special budget, the Committee on Poverty was ceded to the minority. I made a strong case that even the special budget committee should be chaired by the minority. If you follow the history, the Honorable Oseichi Mensah, then as minority leader, subsequently Professor Jan Bafo of Wenchi, inevitably were chairs of those committees. Even currently, I see that the Honorable Mensah allows me to preside, but not officially the presiding officer of it. I'm sure that will be dealt with under the revised standing orders. I'll take two more.
Yeah, leader. My name is Ibrahim Al-Hassan, Star FM, GH1 TV. Leader, you talked about committees, their work, and access to the media. One committee ad hoc that was put together yesterday will be the committee, the 9-member committee, to attend to the petitions from Prince Kofi Amoaben and Dr. Dufo. Leader, do you know as to whether this will be open to the public, the work of the committee? And if not, will you push for something like that? Because this matter...
I'm sure your question is better directed to the chairman of the committee. What I do know is that there are affected bankers who feel that they were treated in a manner that was unfair, in a manner that the revocation of their license destroyed their businesses. The Bank of Ghana is not above the probe and scrutiny of Parliament, not at all. And we are exercising one of our mandates to go deeply into the matter and see the circumstances that led to the revocation of those licenses, whether it was justified in law and in fact. Let the committee come out with this finding. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, Leader. My name is Sheila. Please, you urge the media to help educate the public on the role of the MP. Please, can there be a limitations for the members of Parliament during campaign so that they don't go about promising their constituents, making them feel they are the district assembly?
And you think that me, Haruna, this I'll follow you. I want my vote. As soon as I land in a community and they say they want a KVIP toilet, after greeting them, my first promise is that I'll endeavor to get it for you.
Yeah, Leader Felix Nyaba from Expert News.
I don't know about others, but I've contributed to that misunderstanding and the rule conflict. And when sometimes when you even enter a community, they will fetch water for you. In fact, this morning, my first 4 calls were about desilting of dams in San Jergo, in Zobao, Datoyele, and Kuchao, and others. So you see, we have access to this and we take it for granted. There are persons who are looking to share bad water with animals, yet they don't have it. That's the extent of deprivation to some of our citizens in our country. So don't take it for granted. If that community walked to me as they've done this morning, desilt our dam, I'm not going to wait for government, because when the rain set in, I would not be able to desilt the dam. So as MP, I'll fill in the gap, play the role to assure them of access to that bad water, regrettably. I should be seeking expansion to water for them to have improvement in their quality of life. But still educate us and educate me in particular. But for me, at that material moment, winning my seat becomes my primary priority. And you may not be happy with me, but in all sincerity, I will promise that young person that if I'm able to assist him or that woman, I will. Last question.
Leader, my name is Ernest Kofi Edu.
Yes.
I want to find out from you, what do you feel when a bill that you have passed to law does not address the very challenge you were seeking to?
Great. As if you accompanied me to the last CPA meeting in Uganda. That's why when you watch the new standing orders, I was a strong advocate for the post-legislative scrutiny committee to follow up on some of the issues. Legitimate concern. I learned it from the speaker from one of the provinces in Canada. and another person, I believe, from one of the small islands who spoke to this particular bill. Good observation. For instance, right to information. Parliament must have somebody reporting what are the impediments, what are the problems, why hasn't it taken off, what can Parliament do? Is it about just resources or even they don't have personnel? So I share your thinking with that. I'll take the very last question.
Yes.
And thank you all.
Leader. I am Paka Wilson. I work with Johnny's. From the grapevine, Leader, we've been told that the approval of Ken was in an exchange of getting the MDC General Secretary into the Parliamentary Service Board. True?
Oh, absolutely not. The discussion for the determination of members of the Parliamentary Service Board long ensued even before Ken was nominated as Minister Designate for Finance. I had a discussion with the Speaker a day after his election, and it was my view that he allows the two leaders to nominate one person to the board. The Honorable Osei Mensah brought in Honorable Abraham Osei Etu. Then I also said Honorable Asedu Nketia, because they are all former members of Parliament. It has practically nothing, just the usual viciousness, malicious, despicable lies to tie the two together. This was 2 days after Honorable Alban Bagbin was elected. We're in a discussion as to the composition of the board. What held it on was for me and the Honorable Osei Mensah to discuss further about what all of you have missed. How do we get a woman onto the board? That was our concern. What held it up was about whether all of us were bringing in male. So there is no relationship. The Honorable Asedu Nketia is as qualified as any Ghanaian to serve on that board. The Honorable Hakma Uswajiman chaired the MPP Council of Elders, and he was on the Parliamentary Service Board in the 7th Parliament. What we should pray is for them to bring their expertise to build a responsible, accountable Parliament and not allow partisan excesses into the work and operation of Parliament. I trust he would be able to do that. And then I should say that the Honorable Osei Mensah expressed concern that Haruna Asedu is General Secretary of a political party. So I tapped him and said, Leader, but Hackman too was chairman of your Council of Elders, and we laughed over it. So there's no relationship. It's just the delay in announcing it. If you want, check from the Secretariat. The memo for it was prepared. Even if you go back to the other paper, you will recall that long ago it was advertised. So we needed to discuss the manner of the advice. So I again discussed with the Honorable Majority Leader and Leader of Government Business that can't we do it as we did when the President wrote to us on the Council of State? The two of us should concur, have a definite position, and concur that to the Speaker. So it is not true that Honorable Asedu Nketia has anything to do with the approval of Ken Ofori-Atta. At the appropriate time, many of you, you know me. Have you ever seen me retract my words publicly? Hardly. You know why? There is a hadith of the Prophet I have always used to guide me. I don't comment on doubtful matters. I comment on what I know. You know, the hadith of the Prophet said that the forbidden is known, the unforbidden is known. Between them are doubtful matters. Avoid doubtful matters. You see, you are questioning me about doubtful matters. I'm keeping away from them because they are doubtful matters. But time and truth. You've heard my famous quote, God cannot be for and against the same matter at the same time. God has choices, and God makes choices. Time will make choices. As for undermine, I have survived it. I will survive it. But it's only natural. I hear people getting worried about whether Haruna wants to run for high office or not. Some of you have even decided to go and produce a 3-piece suit for me. I've never worn a 3-piece suit in my life. Neither have I owned that particular green tie. So on that note, God bless. Thank you.
Well, okay, so I'd like to thank you for coming. And as you can imagine, the meeting has come to an end. We are heading to the other block for another assignment. So those of you who can join us, let's go for Mr. Speaker's courtesy call. But in terms of other issues, I will liaise with Simon and his people and revert. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. We are really grateful.